Darren Smith joins the program. Good morning, D. Smith.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
Is the microphone on?
Yeah, you're on.
We can hear you.
Sorry, it's my first time in here.
I guess that's right.
Yeah, the house that Big Sills
Have you
built.
forgotten how to... You haven't forgotten how to do radio, have you?
Kinda, yeah. On-off buttons and
All right.
headphone volume, all that sort of stuff.
Who's the huskiest soccer player? And are they huskier than me?
What's the stat? How many miles does a soccer player run in a match?
Like 10, 12.
In a match,
Yeah,
All-
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
running.
that's why when sometimes you see soccer players at the end of a match and, they do the jersey exchange and things, people go, hey, like, what's that? Are they wearing bras? Right, because
they have the thing.
I've seen
the
those, yeah.
telemetry. So
Yes.
so they sort of track where you are, what your speed is, right? And so it's all just modern information, trying to figure out like is a guy getting tired? How many minutes should he play? All that sort of stuff. Well, yeah, but it's more than I will run for the rest of my life.
No question.
What these guys will run in a single match, and I can promise you that. Like, I'm not a runner. But these guys, it's ridiculous how much physical stamina they have to do that.
It truly is. And I mean, bro, I watched my 7-year-old play, and I'm like, that's a lot of running for a 7-year-old. The fields are big. They run nonstop. They never get tired because they're 7. And I think about these grown-ass men out there. And not only that, I mean, it gets physical. And we're all excited about it. Again, I tried the jersey on this morning. It did not look good. It did not look good.
I know. I'm with you. Dude, I'm 52 now. Like, I'm at that stage where I don't know that jerseys look great on me either. And I kind of stand in the mirror and I look and, like, my nipples are out.
Yeah, dude. Very tight.
I don't know. Like, I love the way they look. I just don't love the way they
Woods
look
has
on
very
me.
sharp nipples as well. It's a feature.
I was worried,
Yeah.
too. I was worried about that because I know there's, like, a camera quality
There,
on the
yes,
show. So I was
yes.
like, maybe they keep it cold in there or whatever. So
I know,
I'm
man.
very
So
sensitive
So you went
to
with
that.
white.
Yeah,
But I got a T-shirt on under it.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I figured there wouldn't be any water tossing around.
I'm wearing actually one of those bras that the soccer players wear right now
Just to monitor heart rate during a 4-hour radio show. Yeah.
All right, man.
No,
so
just for bosom support.
no, it's supposed to support. Yeah, I don't like getting hit in the chin when I run. Man, so you've been making the rounds. I mean, you've been doing a lot of podcasts and things like that. That's fun. You having fun with that?
I am. I mean, I think
You
it's
can
good to
curse at least, which is great.
I do like cursing.
I do too. So
I do
much.
like cursing. I did get a reminder to not cuss here today.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That was good advice. So thank you, Corey Stewart, for sending me that text message as I was in the elevator today. Said, remember, you can't cuss on this show.
Yeah,
now.
that's true.
It's been a minute since you've been on radio. So that was good advice. Yeah, I mean, I just like dusting off the vocal cords, and it's the time of the year where, you have spring training, and here comes SDFC. And San Diego State basketball is always interesting,
It's a
right?
good one, man.
Especially now that it's February and it's March and there's good storylines there. So, just I have things that I'd like to talk about, and so it's just been a good outlet for me to be able to, just to chatter a little bit with John and others.
Yeah, so Darren obviously really involved with San Diego Loyal when they were here, and SDFC is here now. You're a Premier League guy too. You like all of them. I mean, is there a soccer league that you don't like?
Is there a soccer league that I mean, you sort of are generally aware of it. It's it's a hard sport to follow because
It is.
There's so many different leagues. Like my wife and I always talk about this because she's in the wine business. So there's so many. There's California wine. There's Oregon wine. There's Washington wine. There's wine from France. There's wine from Spain, from Italy, from right. So you can. How do you ever master all that? And the same goes for soccer, right? There's the domestic league. We have Club Tijuana. We have Cholos. I'm a Barcelona fan, so I follow a lot of Spanish soccer. And, there's the Premier League is obviously probably the most popular sport or league in the world. So, I don't follow a ton of Italian soccer or German soccer. And truthfully, MLS, I'm really sort of taking a crash course on.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was leading is
yeah.
the quality, the differences.
Yeah, because when MLS started, everyone knew worldwide it was kind of a joke in terms of quality, but it's come up now 30 years
This is
of
the
the
30th year.
MLS.
Yeah.
It's not Premier League, obviously,
Right.
but it's definitely risen in quality over those 3 decades.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And, it's starting to evolve in ways, I think, where, it was doing what it had to do to try to attract any eyeballs when it first started back in 1996. So, they were doing whatever they had to do. That's why David Beckham coming over was such a big deal, even though he sort of like, did you guys see the documentary?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know if I really want to do this. But, and these guys are a bunch of turds. Why am I playing in this league anyway? But, like now they're starting to, to bring in younger players. So, there's a lot of younger players coming over from South America and Central America. And, you're getting players maybe not exactly in their prime, like Chucky Lozano is a great example of this. But, he's in the prime
window. A little
window.
Closer to the prime.
Yeah, he's in the prime window of his
Messi's
career.
Still good. He's not messy, but he's still, still good.
He's totally different.
For like somebody like me, like the most casual of casuals, I know MLS for years. I was associating it with David Beckham. Mm-hmm. Now I know that Messi's playing in Miami. Like, those are the names that at least most people will recognize.
Right. But, with that came a little bit of a reputation that it was a retirement league. So, then it, you sort of had to fight against that. Like, it's just like all these aged out superstars from Europe who don't really have a place to go, and they want to go live someplace that's stress-free, where they don't have to deal with the stresses of being on a, Real Madrid, Manchester United type environment, right, where the press is killing you all the time and all that sort of stuff. So, now, like, it's, it's different. It's younger. You're starting to see this league, start to take younger players, sell them off to bigger leagues for a lot of money. And you're seeing players like Chucky Lozano starting to come over to MLS. So, it takes time. Progress, I know we all love everything to be.
SAP.
Right.
Yeah.
Progress is measured in like years and decades often in sports. So, I do think it's getting better all the time. The quality's getting better all the time. And finally, San Diego has a team to call its own. I mean, this has been 30 years in the making, right? I mean, people wanted a team here for 30 years. And, finally on Sunday, they get one.
Darren, you remember in radio a thing called clock integrity?
Yeah.
Yes.
Got to take a quick time out.
Okay.
We will get back to Darren Smith, though. We'll talk a little more Sdfc, get his thoughts on the Padres and their offseason, since a lot of you probably haven't heard much from Darren the last couple of months. He's got a lot of stored up takes for us this morning. Darren Smith on the other side of our break here on 97.3 The Fan. Oh, this is a treat. We've got Darren Smith in studio joining us to just, talk a little soccer, talk a little Padres. We're excited because obviously today's the first Cactus League game, Padres and Mariners at noon here on 97.3 The Fan. Woods counts the days down, Darren, since the end of last season. Like, he looks at the calendar immediately and goes, how long do we have to get through until there's a baseball game again?
Yeah, how much Laker talk do I have to hear from him?
Right, yeah.
In the meantime. Luckily, the last couple of years, the Aztecs have been really fun to watch and cover, and you root for them. Like my wife went there, so it's that's eased the burden a little bit. But yeah, man, and I feel like you're a lot of the same way. Baseball season is different. It's different. You're like, I'm good. I'm good for 6-7 months now. I'm really happy. B, we've got a pretty exciting team to talk about here and have since we started on the air. You had some lean years that you had to navigate through.
I hate you guys.
I know.
Like the Ben and Wood show starts right as the Padres finally get good and serious about baseball.
We played the clip the other day. It was the anniversary of Manny signing.
Yeah. I just heard it on the way in.
Yeah, and we had of course we had the Hosmer signing, and that was something. But when Manny signed, it all just kind of came together for everybody. And I know there's part of me that feels bad about that. Then there's part of me like, I can't. I'm pretty lucky. There's been no shortage of material to talk about with this team, and it's been a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah, it's fun.
And even last year being a little bit removed from it, right? Like not doing it every single day, I think allowed it to be even somehow more enjoyable because,
of course.
And I think I might have said this to you when we were at AleSmith. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, you're like, hey, I'm just enjoying this. I'm just enjoying this. This is a lot of fun. And I don't have to hear from general managers about the things that they think are flawed with this roster and what's going to prevent them from going to the next. You're just like, this is a lot of fun. Like, this is a really, really fun team to watch. And I kind of still am in that mode, I think. I think I'm still in that mode, or maybe I've just sort of switched permanently. But I'm with you. Like, I just kind of like the fact that it's on starting today,
yes.
and, like, it's just on until the end of October. like it's like one channel where it's just always on television, and you're just constantly tuned in, and it's there when you want it. And if you don't want it, it's fine. It'll be there when you do.
So, Darren, what was your perspective on this Padres offseason? And obviously things have changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks with the Nick Pivetta signing and bringing in some pieces. But I sometimes feel we're almost too close to it. We get too positive, too negative. We're riding that wave every single day. Stepping back just a little bit, what's your analysis of where the Padres kind of are as a franchise based on the moves they did and did not make this offseason?
Well, I mean, I think you said it well. I mean, if you asked me this 3 weeks ago, it probably would have been a little more glass half empty. I think probably today it's more glass half full, at least for now, subject to change, right? Because things happened last year in the month of March that people didn't quite see coming. I like it. You know, I like the squad. I'm glad, at least for today, that they didn't have to trade away pieces. Maybe they will, and if they do, is it because they want to do it? Because they have to do it. Last year, you felt like they had to do those things. Yep. This year, you sort of get the sense. Again, as an outsider, I don't really know that it's they're doing what they want to do, and you know, I think that the bones of the team are really good. This is a 93-win team last year. I think the top two pitchers are really good. You Darvish, hopefully for a full season, the Pivetta signing. So yeah, I mean, listen, I understood there was all sorts of questions, and then you had lawsuits, and there was confusion, and you know, some of us have lived through the John Moore's era of Padre baseball, where you sort of felt like going through that then led to this, you know, this like long extended winter, you know, where nothing good was happening, and you know, there was some PTS with that for sure. Like I can't imagine anybody who hadn't lived through that, like didn't think about that happening again. So you know, I feel pretty good about it. They're in Peoria. You guys will have the vibe check next week, but you know, by all accounts, you know, I've seen some of the clips from Sammy, from Marty, from other people that are out there, and you know, it seems like it's an extension of where they left off last year, even though some of the pieces look different than they did, right?
For as tumultuous as it has been in the offseason, the sense when, at least so far again from camp, having Schilt already been there, bringing all the coaches back, the continuity, that's the one thing they have not had. And we asked Crony about it at FanFest, and I mean, imagine you're one of those guys, the Cronies, the Mannies, the guys that have been here for a few years. And every single spring you walk in, like, I have 17 new guys. Yeah. And not the minor league invites, the Jason Haywards, but like you're like, this guy's going to be our new shortstop. This guy's going to be this. This guy's going to be that. We don't have this. We don't have that. The continuity is good. Schilt has, I think, done a good job installing the culture. And, you know, I find myself, and it's not because I work here, and you guys all know me really well. You know me. If I was at home working for Jack in the Box corporate office, I'd be like, ooh, Jason Hayward, that is interesting. I am interested in Jason. What does he have left? Connor, Joe, that's just how I'm wired. But I like some of these smaller moves that AJ's made. And we all know, AJ, these aren't the moves he wanted to make. Like, he wanted to go bigger. Of course he did. But he wasn't in a position to do so. You've covered him a long time. You have a good relationship with him. We all agree. Much different guy off the air than on.
Yeah.
Morning, guys.
Morning. Has this? Do you get the sense that this has been a particularly excruciating off season for him?
I mean, I get the sense not really knowing which direction it was going.
Do you think it was
probably tough?
You think it was
and seeing people that he cares about kind of like getting dragged in the public spotlight? Probably.
Do you think because a lot of people's theory is
Sasaki?
Yeah. All the eggs were in the Sasaki basket, and when it didn't happen, we talked about it. He was probably devastated. Like, as a human being, not the GM of the Padres. Like, he was devastated. You put in so much work, and you didn't get him. That's another one you didn't get. You got to be a little bit lacking in confidence when something like that happens. I liked the pivot, though. The pivot has been, or the Pivetta. I like that. It's been fine. Good. It's not the same, but it's something.
I also think that there's, I don't think it's just a handful of people saying out loud the theory that it always felt like Roki Sasaki was going to the Dodgers. I've heard that locally before I heard that nationally. So from that standpoint, do I feel like AJ was probably disappointed that it didn't happen here because they still had a chance up until the end. The fact that the Dodgers were still moving money around at the last second, I think gave an indication maybe it's not done like a lot of people have suggested behind the scenes. So, I think that when you invest that much time, and who even knows how much time AJ and his staff invested in Roki Sasaki, traveling, seeing him, years, right? Years of this courtship. Of course she's disappointed, but I think deep down, I think that, they probably subscribe to the theory that a lot of other people did. And Manny said it, and I like that Manny said it at FanFest, that when he hosted Roki Sasaki at his house, he's like, I kind of felt like he knew what he was going to do.
Yep.
And I know it sounds like you're sugarcoating or like you're coping or whatever people like to say. But it was out there. I'm just telling you, like I don't work here. So I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, it was out there that there was a sense that he was always going to end up in Los Angeles. Now there was a chance, and like the number I heard was 70-30, 70 Dodgers, 30% everybody else. Then it gets whittled down to Toronto and the Padres. You're like, well, now it's like 15-15, So your mind starts messing with you a little bit. But I'm just always going to take with me the idea that this was sort of done and dusted, and it was always the likely pathway that he was going to end up in Los Angeles, which isn't to suggest that like they didn't try. And there's a reason why they called in Ethan Salas to sit there and catch, and there's a reason why they hosted him and had Darvish and Alders and Manny. There's a reason why they did that. But, I can't imagine that they didn't anticipate, or at least they didn't prepare for the probability or the possibility, whichever, that he was going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think I know how much time they invested in Shohei Ohtani back when he was first coming to the States. I mean, that was like an all-staff courtship where I heard people in different departments who ran the video boards at Petco Park were working late to try to put on some sort of show for Shohei Ohtani. So, I do believe that they probably worked every bit as hard, but I just think that sense was out there probably for good reason, and that it happened makes it sort of hard to say. It's hard to prove, but it's also hard not to prove.
Darren Smith is in studio. He's going to stick around one more segment. We're going to take a timeout. We're going to play Take on Woods. We'll push it back into our 9 o'clock hour if you do want a chance to win that trip to Las Vegas. But Darren, put your thinking cap on during the break because. The little radio story time, just something. I only got to work with you for a short period of time at the old station before they pulled the plug on that one. And I know a lot of people miss your voice on San Diego radio, so we're going to just go back to some of the highlights of the Darren Smith era on San Diego radio in our next segment. Still can't quite believe it. A couple weeks ago, in the chair right across from me, we had Dave Rickards sitting there. Now we've got Darren Smith sitting in this chair. How did we get so lucky, Woods?
Can we get the saw next? Yeah. You've got a problem.
You got a problem.
You got a problem. It's my favorite.
Why not?
It's my favorite drop of the year.
Do the old former radio guys.
Let's do it, man.
Do a whole series on that. I like it.
We got Darren here, and I said on a radio story time, and I just wanted to keep it kind of open-ended. I mean, you've been on the air. When did you first arrive in San Diego? I want to say mid-'90s?
No, 2003.
Not until 2003.
2003, yeah.
And then at the beginning, you were like on with Philly Billy, or how did it get started?
So
did you broadcast before here?
Kinda, but not. I was at ESPN.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's
right. Back in the days when ESPN and baseball had a great relationship in the 90s.
And
right?
were you a producer
really
there?
Now.
Yeah.
You were a producer at ESPN?
Yeah. I was Dan Patrick's producer.
That's right.
So, I got an entry-level gig at ESPN, cutting tape, which,
doesn't exist.
Nobody knows what that is. So, got that gig and then started producing weekend shows with Sean Salisbury, which was a treat.
I heard he's a trip.
He's unique.
I've heard some stories.
And I could tell some stories. So,
That's what this is, story time with Darren Smith.
He used to do the show from the old Extra 690 studios.
Oh, yeah.
And I swear I wouldn't hear from Sean all week. 2:59 p.m. for a 3 o'clock show. Hey, I'm here. What do we got today?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, oh my, you're killing me. And
Paulie gets it. He knows.
Everybody who's on that show gets it. Then did some weeknights, then did Dan Patrick, and then Dan's brother Bill started the old Mighty 1090.
Yep.
So had the opportunity to come out and was a producer and weekend host at first. And then Steve Mason left to go to Los Angeles. and Philly Billy needed one chair, needed a co-host. So I started doing the show with Billy in March of 2004, and it was just a trial. It's just like, hey, like, we're desperate. Steve Mason on a Sunday night said, I'm going to Los Angeles. Monday, we need somebody to sit in with Philly Billy. Can you do it? And I said, yeah, good, done. I'll do it. And sat in with him, did it for a couple of days. They tried a couple of other people. They said, hey, we got a cheap option right here in house. So, let's just have this guy do it.
The radio way, baby.
Well, that's my story.
Yeah.
I was called to fill in for 3 days for the guy who used to be there in the mornings and then here in the mornings. And then that 3 days became another week, and they said, can you stay on another week? And then they started bringing in different people to co-host with me, and eventually it was like, do you know Stephen Woods? And I go, no, I don't, but I'll meet him, and the rest was history.
That's the advice I give everybody in this business who feels like, oh man, when am I going to get my shot? I go, hey, at some point somebody's going to leave.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get canned. Something's going to happen in this industry,
Be around.
and you're going to be given an opportunity. Just I know it's a difficult thing to say, to be patient, especially when you're living here in San Diego, but there is truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. A lot of things change in this industry, so you just got to be ready.
It's a war of attrition, man. Is what it is. And you're like, oh man,
1,000%.
People lost your job. I feel so bad for them, but it's like, look who's here. To slide right. I mean, if not for Dan Cilio, we're not even a thing. Like him going a couple of different places, we replaced him twice. I can't wait to see where he lands next.
Yeah.
If he gets a really good gig next, it's time to start planning.
Time to start packing up.
Yeah, pack it up.
It won't be long.
Yeah.
It's amazing. One of the things I love too, and we've talked about this a lot, is you getting to do some shows with some pretty big baseball people, and you've gotten ingratiated in the game of baseball by some of the best. Talk about like some of your experiences in pregame and postgame with Flan and those guys.
Oh yeah, the Padre BP show. So 1090 was the flagship. And, mid 2000s were great. Petco Park was opening up. They were investing a little bit of money into the team. Nothing like it is today. But won a division title in 2005, 2006, 2007 was that crazy game 163. And there was a pregame show. Like they were all in on Padres. And we did a 2-hour show called the Miller Lite Padre BP show. And that was 2 hours before the 1-hour pregame show.
Various gas lamp locales.
We had 6 days a week where we would go to different gas lamp locations, true. And we used to have people that would follow us from place to place to place. And I got a chance to work with Tim Flannery and Randy Jones. And, it was such an eye-opening experience for me. Like we were talking a little bit about this during the break. I come in and I think I'm a know-it-all, right? Like, I know stats, right? Like Goose Gossage would definitely point a finger at me and say, you're a nerd.
Yep.
And, you think you know a lot about sports, and then you spend 15 minutes talking to Tim Flannery and Randy Jones, and you find out what's actually happening on the field and what's actually happening in the clubhouse. You're like, I know squat. Like, I know nothing about what actually it is that happens down there. And you just learn to see the game in a way that's totally different than you're capable of seeing it on your own as a non-former player. So, like, it was just great. And those are truly, like, some of the best years of my career and like my career total, obviously here in San Diego, was doing those shows. And it just happened to coincide with 05 and 06 when the Padres were good and interesting, and Petco was new, and the gas lamp, and everybody, it just was a ton of fun.
It's funny because that just resonated with me, because this can be a difficult job to do when you have some self-awareness and realize that you are talking out of your rear end a lot of the time. And I hate doing that. I want to be as knowledgeable as possible about everything I talk about. And then I find out I'm pretty knowledgeable, but I'm not really, there's so much more you could learn. Like, how can you ever be qualified enough to sit for 4 hours and talk about a subject? You feel like you never can be.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember our mutual friend Flan. I can remember saying something, it was probably June. I was like, oh man, this is a big one tonight. Kind of looked at me. He's like, is it? Is it a big one? I was like, yeah, there's a lot on the line on this game. And he looks, he's like, okay.
It's June, buddy.
Right, like, all right, I got you. Yeah, it's a big one. You go with that.
They do have a way.
And I remember thinking like, oh, like what am I getting wrong here? But it was his way of saying, like, I've played this game and coached this game, and I've been a broadcaster and I've been around the sport my whole life. Like, it's not. It's just, there's another one tomorrow. So, like, just calm down, kid.
It's so funny, too, because we had that, in 2023 covering the team was, what a trip, man. What a great offseason. And, I mean, I grew 6 feet tall, with all the signings. And every day it was somebody new. And Juan Soto, you're just like, I can't believe this. We're going to win the World Series this year. We're going to be a part of it. And it went so south, so sideways, that it just blows your mind when you think you know. And I remember all season going, dude, relax. It's early. My God, it's early. Then come into last year, and I said, we can't say it's early anymore. There needs to be some sort of sense of urgency. How do you view this season for the San Diego Padres? I've kind of been saying the Mike Schilt way has always been you start slow and you want to peak at the right time, and it's absolutely true. We saw what happened to the Phillies last year. We all anointed them in June, July. They're going to win the World Series. It didn't happen. I still kind of the opinion of I don't know that we can really handle the slow start here this season. I kind of got to come out of the gates firing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think from where I sit, and again, this is as outside as I've been in 20 plus years. I think you don't want to give anybody any reasons to think that maybe the best strategy is to trade Dylan Cease or Luis Arraez or Michael King at the trade deadline, since they're on expiring contracts, right? I would like to ride that one out. And if you have, the Padres are 500 through 100 games or something like that
50
last year?
50.
50 and 50, yeah.
I mean, if that's this year, are there comments in the chat from people saying, well, let's not make the mistakes of 2023 where they didn't trade Blake Snell, where they didn't try to, do the things that they... And I didn't mind that then, and I don't really mind it now, because... truth of the matter is in 2023, if they beat the Diamondbacks one more time in the second half of the season, they go to the playoffs. They had a tiebreaker with the Cubs, and they would have had the tiebreaker with the Diamondbacks. So they weren't as far out as people make it out to be. That being said, it was what it was, and it's easy. And you can't say that the people who suggested that are totally wrong because you got nothing for Blake Snell. Is now with the Dodgers. So, I think I'd just try to avoid that kind of conversation if I were them. I don't know how you do that. I don't know that that's a great motivational speech in the clubhouse. Hey guys, let's not get our fans on social media talking about trading Dylan Cease or Michael King
in June.
But
and
I
July.
would like to avoid that if I were the Padres because then that could put some pressure on a new ownership group to think that maybe that's the right way to go about doing it.
Speaking of the Dodgers, we have Darren Smith in studio. Heard some players yesterday, as you can expect, going, love to see the Dodgers spending money because, rising tides lift all boats. They're players. They want to make money as much as possible, so spending is a good thing. It's been my contention, though, and I don't think the Dodgers are doing anything illegal. They're following the rules, but they're winning the World Series, then going on this spending spree is not good for the game of baseball as a whole because I get the sense, and it's not just Padres fans, Darren, but 29 almost other fan bases are looking and seeing a mountain that doesn't look scalable. Even when you tell them, hey, it's the playoffs, anything can happen in a short series. I know that in my brain as well. But I look at that Dodgers team and I go, unless something goes wrong, that is an unscalable mountain. They're creating an impossible path that's in front of everybody, and that just discourages an entire sports fans that what can my team do against the face of such incalculable odds?
Yeah, and I get beaten up on this on social media because I've always said I'm not in favor of a salary cap. And I just go by recent history here in San Diego where the Padres had the third highest payroll in the sport, and I didn't hear a single Padre fan going, but what about the Pirates? What about the Pirates? What about
you don't feel bad?
How they're spending in some other market. Instead, we were all drunk as skunks on that, right?
We were 100%.
We're like, screw those other owners, those cheapskates. That was the chorus.
I went nuts. Yeah. I went nuts. I would call them out by name every day.
That was the chorus that I think we all were in unison singing. So, but I understand it. And, I mean, all I could say is, I know it's cliche, but I am one of those people that think about the team that the Dodgers had to win the World Series. They didn't have these stars. They didn't have these players. Now, do I think it's an impossible mountain to climb in the NL West? Yeah, it certainly seems that way. But guess what? They've also expanded this postseason so that you get 7 teams now that get to go in there.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, are the Padres truly in competition with the Dodgers? Well, at some point they probably intersect, right? But Do I feel like the Padre roster is in competition with the Dodger roster today? No, I think it's more about the Cubs, the Mets,
Diamondbacks.
the Diamondbacks, right? It's those kind of teams, and I think 1 through 4 at least in the starting staff, I kind of like where the Padres are. So, it's a different mindset, obviously, and I understand why people say it, but it's kind of like when people used to bellyache about players getting paid in college. You go like, yeah, it sounds great in theory, but how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it for the Dodgers who make $300 million in local television money compared to the Padres who don't? I don't know how you do that. Now, if somebody comes up with a system that's agreeable for everybody and everybody thinks, hey, this is in the best interest of the sport, great. But, there's lots of things wrong with the salary cap leagues too, right? Like, I mean, MLS, like Galaxy won the MLS Cup last year and had to trade away like 3-4 players that were part of their MLS Cup winning squad because they got stuck in some sort of salary cap situation. And in the NFL and in the NBA, this is so. Well, I mean, it's an easy thing to say and it sounds good in theory. It's a difficult thing to put into practice.
Well, speaking of SDFC, we only got a few minutes left with you, and I know you're going to be stoked that the game is here and it's arrived on Sunday. What are your expectations? I've seen them, obviously it's an expansion team, so keep your expectations low. I've seen them pick, dead last in their division, which probably, that's kind of how it works for the most part.
The wooden spoon, they call it.
Yeah, the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
What are you, what are you expecting?
Can I just say real quick? There are, the way like away fans travel. Like it's a little different in soccer. They have like away sections.
Yeah.
So like they funnel all the visiting fans into one section. It's not like it is at Petco Park where you get different pockets. There are 823 fans from San Diego going up to Carson. On Sunday. 823. I had to look up the number to make sure I had it right. 823 ticket allotment from LA Galaxy. That's how many people are going to show up there rooting for San Diego Football Club. I think they're going to score a lot. I think they're going to play a lot of high-scoring kind of games. And as an expansion club, there's different ways to go about doing it. You could be kind of tactically boring and try to win games 1-0 or 2-1 and all that. They don't want to do that. They want to. They might be like the early 2000 Padres with Nevin and Klesko, hit a bunch of home runs and lose 9-8. They might lose their share of 4-3 games.
That's how you get a fan like me.
Yeah,
by the way.
I think
that's exactly how you get a fan like me.
And by the way,
on
I think
board.
they're saying that publicly. Like our goal is, at least early on, like we're going to invest in attacking players and try to make this exciting for fans. We're going to play some high-scoring games. We're going to score. We might give up some goals, but it's going to be fun, and like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think they're going to score a lot. Whether or not they can keep the ball out of the net, I'm not so sure. But I like that approach from an expansion club. It's not going to be a finished product, and they're going to invest in the things they think that will excite fans out of the gate.
Do you believe, in the structure, the owner, the Right to Dream Academy, what they have, are at least trying to create? Is that a path to long-term success for this
I think
team?
so. I think objectively it's a great thing to offer people great opportunities to professional soccer, to open it up for youth soccer players in a way that really hasn't existed before in the U.S. So, we'll see. It's a different model. U.S. sports fans are sort of creatures of habit, so you're going to have to and a little fickle, and a little fickle, and it takes time. It's going to take some time, and if it turns into a winning product, then I think people will be happy with it. But the whole goal is to try to bring up younger players, have a younger looking squad in 5-7 years. But that's a tough thing today.
It's just like baseball.
It is.
That's baseball. That's what you dream of. You dream of being the Orioles. You know what I mean? And having you don't have to pay anything. You have all this young talent.
Yeah,
that's great, man. Dude, thanks so much for your time.
That's
it was awesome, man. That's it, right?
Yeah, that goes quick.
About to hear them. It does. It goes really fast.
We do appreciate you coming in. We're going to do a quick check of traffic, Paulie. Do you still have it, or
no? I don't.
No, we're going to push traffic, and we're just going to.
Did I talk too much?
Yeah, no.
No.
It was my fault. Actually, it's fine.
He always
guess what? It's Friday.
He asks one question.
There's a lot of traffic out there in San Diego.
There
There's
is.
a traffic
I can
report.
attest to that.
Sorry, Kelly, stealing your job out
and
there.
that traffic
right.
report was brought to you by Sedano Ford in La Mesa.
Perfect.
This President's Day, local and veteran-owned. Your veteran-owned Sedano Ford in La Mesa is making presidential-sized deals happen. Don't miss these historic President's Day savings. Visit SedanoFord.com for complete details. I'm Kelly Danick. Back to you.
Thank you.
5 brutal.
Paulie Danick.
Now we don't have to get the sponsor read in
The
because
5 in
Paulie's
National
smart.
City
That's
is
how it's
brutal.
done.
15 North, terrible.
It's Friday. Stay away from the merge. You know how it works on a Friday in San Diego. Darren, it was great to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming
guys.
in. That was a real treat, and we will be eagerly anticipating the next big announcement from Darren Smith.
Indeed.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be.
Who knows?
Who knows? And who knows when it might come.
Maybe you guys break the news.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.